Last night and checked in and met about a dozen of you from around the country. And, it was fun getting some feedback. I always ask people, what'd you get out of it? Of course, most of my guy friends that read the book, the first chapter they read is on sex. And then if I can win them there, I get them through the whole book, And so I read a couple of people last night, and they're like, yeah, you wrote that chapter on sex. And, there's that awkward pause, like, it's a sales conference. Are you going to... I'm like, oh yeah, baby, this is LA. Are you kidding me? Yeah, happy cows give more milk. We're going there. Of course we're going to go there. But this really is what science has confirmed. At the end of the day, we are either richly rewarded or we're capped by what we believe. That, my goal today is to help you latch on to one thing that you believe has to happen to win, for you personally. So that when you look back at the end of the year, you say to yourself, this was a fantastic year. Some dots about motivation, about the human mind, about neuroscience, and about achievement. What we're going to come back to is this quote. At the end of the day, if you leave here, Southern California, actually a lot of you live in Southern California, but if you leave here believing, and it's true, and it's authentic, and you have a plan, but if you leave here believing that this year is going to be a great year, it will be a great year. Because I've had this conversation with hundreds of people, thousands, and it's true. You achieve what you believe. Now, I know research tells us that 80% of what I say you'll forget. But the other 20% can absolutely change your year. And I hope that's what happens today. I'm going to grab what you believe. A couple days ago, I was in Santa Clarita. Friend of the family, potential client in his 30s, played basketball for 4 years at La Cañada, was a varsity all 4 years. In his senior year, he was getting letters from UCLA, from Harvard to play basketball. Turned him down. Went to Georgia Tech and became an engineer. Now he's 30 years old, handsome, strapping, tall guy, deep voice, beautiful wife, 2 little kids. And we're having lunch 2 days ago. And he's saying, something's missing. And I spoke to my dad and my mom, and they said, you need to come and you talk to Joel and see if you can work with him. And I said, well, tell me what's going on. And he began to tell me the story. It's an interesting story. So his father told him, as he was getting these letters, he goes, just be aware of this. And I didn't verify these stats, but I believe them to be true. But 2% of the high school starters will play Division I ball. And out of that group, 2% of the starters in college will play professional basketball. So this guy, young guy, made a decision. He said, I'm not going to go to Harvard or UCLA to play basketball. I'm going to go to Georgia Tech. I'm going to be an engineer. But now, 8 years after that, he's meeting with me and he's saying, something's missing. And one of the things I like to do with people to get them thinking is I said to him, well, Robbie, tell me, what do you think when you let your guard down and you think about yourself, your persona, like when you think about the heroic part of you, like what comes up for you when you think that way? I know he's an engineer. I said, let me give you an example. So for me, when I think of in my heroic self, I'm in a play where good is overcoming evil. That's always my theme in life. And whether I'm wearing a tuxedo or race leathers or wherever I'm at, it's almost irrelevant. But that's the theme of my life. And I get energized about that. I get energized about helping people go to a next level and removing all this clutter. And he said, I never thought about that question. But he goes, and I'll be honest with you, he goes, in the moment, I've never said this before, but I picture myself in something like a command room, and there's multiple TV screens, and I'm making really hard decisions, but they're really important. Now, in the moment, what does that mean? Who knows? I'm thinking, is that air traffic control? Is that Homeland Security? I have no idea what that is. But here's what's happening in this 30-year-old guy's mind. He's starting to believe that there's something else. Some people call that a crisis. I don't call that a crisis. That's a man starting to believe there is something more important for him to have. There's something more. Let's talk about what is the best effort. And I talked about this in my book, and the power of having good relationships and good people in your life is all of us will find something that is heroic and monumental to do, but only a few people get to the top. And I've used this over and over in my coaching practice, and I've watched people get so close and yet bail out on things that are important to them. And what I've come to believe is that it's because all of us have limiting beliefs. We have limiting beliefs about what is possible for us. Life hangs in the balance of what we believe. I used to think this was kind of hokey. I used to think, I often get those people, what do? You motivate people, you get them all jazzed up, you get them all riled up. I said, well, that's not my goal. I said, my goal is to get people to think and hopefully get people to think differently and to connect some dots that are important to them. Yeah, I do that. I'm not interested in getting people riled up. I want people to think and figure out what's important and take the right risks and define their values. But the power of the mind is really interesting. The dots that I'm connecting for you today about this concept of motivation and belief and the brain and human neuroplasticity, the fact that you can actually rewire the human mind is a big deal. Why is this person making $10,000 a month when they can make 40 or 50? Now, I'm just using numbers as an example. It's because of this. It's because of what a person believes about themselves. Here's a person that will leave their house, as one example. They'll get outside of their door and they will be flushed with anxiety. And they'll think to themselves, I left the stove on. Here's the troubling thing about this. This is what science has taught us. Intellectually, they know the stove's not on. They know it. And yet their brain has told them, you've got to go back though. And you've got to check. And they go back in, and of course, the stove is not on. This is a profound understanding of the human mind because people have been broken of this. And what this tells us is if they can change the way they think, so can we. You get on the back of this motorcycle, which already doesn't sound like a great idea. It's configured to hang on to, there's a metal bar in that gas tank. That rider is a professional AMA Moto America racer. He will do 165 miles an hour on the front straight of Cal Speedway with you on the back. He will downshift the motorcycle 1, maybe 2 gears, and he will lean that bike with you on the back into the first corner at 110 miles an hour. If you're like me, you're thinking this was the worst decision I can ever make in my life. I mean, I was like a little kid. I was afraid. We got into turn 4 and I'm thinking this is where we're going down. We got to turn 9, we're crashing here. I mean, I went around the track each time going, we have to fall. There is no way that this motorcycle can stay up and go this fast in these deep lean angles. Well, that experience confirmed what I had read as a graduate student, that under certain circumstances, your mind is actually rewired. And this picture is a symbol that I'm not giving up. I'm getting older, yes, but I'm not giving up, and there's a lot more to have. There's a lot bigger thing. I didn't believe I could do that at 47, and I was around a group of people who were successful saying, this is not something you need in your life. But it was more than going fast. This is not about going fast. This is about not dying young. And it's about faith. It's about belief. It's about what we are going to believe about 2016. So I had this experience, and it literally just transformed my ability in a very short time. And I was competitive with a very, very competitive demographic. And Southern California's got some of the best riders in the country. And I was successful, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take this concept and I'm going to teach it to other people. But this is a great, exciting thing we've packaged it, we've taken a bunch of people to the track. We help people with trust issues, we help people with communication, taking feedback. You want to get a good read on how workable people are, put them in this configuration. There's so many things that can happen in a race car, and it's got very little to do with going fast, although you do go fast. But it has a lot to do with your perception, your trust, your ability to take direction. It's a great, great medium to have breakthroughs with. And at some point, they want me to not just push them, but they want me to tell them. And I'm quick to remind them that, this is about what you think, not what I think. I'll point to the data, I'll point to the science, but I want to know what you think. But here's what's really cool. This is inside of us. And King Solomon wrote about this 3,000 years ago. There's a purpose inside of every one of us, but there's a man or a woman of understanding who draws it out. Here's the thing I love about my job the most, is whatever's important to you is already in there. You don't need to read another book. It's already there. The question is, will you find the person or the experience to pull it out of you? That's a comforting thought and a scary thought. What do you see? Call it out. What do you see? What's the picture?
Rabbit and a duck. It's a duck rabbit.
Okay, exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? Does everybody see that? It's a duck to the left, and it's a rabbit to the right. And this is one of the most obvious ones, but I actually use this in my coaching practice because until people are willing to look at something and see the same thing differently, they're kind of capped. They are stuck. And that's what we're talking about today. Today is the ability for you to look at your goals and what's important and have that discussion today after lunch and begin to strip away some of the stuff that gets in the way for you to go. Here's how I do it with clients. It's in my book. First of all, obviously defining success. And in this context, this is a new year. I've got goals, you have goals. I have accountability partners, I hope you have accountability partners. I have a plan, I'm sure you have a plan, but maybe you need to consider that today. But what is the definition of success? Today is a day, and it can mean a lot of different things, but it's got to be something personal to you. But then secondly, this is where it kind of gets fun and interesting in a group like this with people that you respect, is what are the thoughts that hold you back from having it? See, if you're alone, you can lie to yourself. I call it the doctrine of excuses. You can come up with a handful of reasons why you won't go to a next level or have a spectacular year, but you need somebody in your life to call it out. But then you got to challenge a belief, which is a limitation. And what I mean by that is, and we probably know this, but what we believe and what are true are two different things. But we believe it as truth. And so getting to a next level is being willing for you to look at in yourself, what do I believe about success? What do I believe about this year? What do I believe about my performance? And being honest with it, and then being willing to be confronted in your thinking and challenged so that you can get to the next level. But when you attach a commitment, a real commitment to an event, it alters the course of your life. It just does. And so I hope that today, that's what you will do. I hope over lunch you have some great discussions. When we come back after lunch, we'll have these two groups together. Let your hair down. Be raw. Talk about what you really want. Talk about what's between you and what you want. And then let the people around you engineer something so that in the second group, you can come up with a real clear idea about this is what I want to do this year. I want to make this is my commitment. I want to make 2016 the best year I've ever had. Thank you very much. What are we going to commit to as a family? What are we going to commit to? What's important to us? And I want you to write down on your commitment to us. And about 2 weeks later, they drove out to the desert and they went to one of these events. And they put that Chinese lantern on the ground and they wrote down on the side of that Chinese lantern, as a family, here's what we're committed to. We're committed to us. And they made that commitment that day. And they launched that Chinese lantern into the sky. And I think that's what I'm hoping for is,